Against the background of the rapid advance of Russian troops in almost all directions of the front, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu decided to visit the war zone and assess the actions of the Russian army. So, the head of the Russian Defense Ministry visited the grouping of troops under the designation center, where he was told in detail what was happening at the front. The commander of the Central Military District, Colonel General Andrei Mordvichev, also known as the General Breakthrough, personally met with Sergei Shoigu and reported to him on the current situation at the front. By the way, Andrei Mordvichev received the nickname General Breakthrough because of his ability to win even the most difficult battles. Let me remind you that it was under the command of Colonel General Andrei Mordvichev that the Russian army managed to take control of such well-fortified cities as Mariupol and Avdiivka. So, during the report to the head of the Russian military department, Andrei Mordvichev noted that Russian troops continue to squeeze the Ukrainian armed forces from their positions, and that the Ukrainian army was pushed back from its strategic heights and positions at a distance of 10 kilometers. Moreover, Colonel General Andrei Mordvichev also noted that all statements by Ukrainian generals and politicians that the Ukrainian armed forces do not have enough artillery ammunition, missiles, and drones are blatant lies. According to him, the Ukrainian army uses almost the same number of artillery shells as the Russian troops every day, and there is no shell starvation in the armed forces of Ukraine. Moreover, many independent Ukrainian telegram channels also drew attention to this fact. According to them, the Kiev authorities specifically create pathetic and propagandistic statements about shell starvation and lack of weapons, in order to absolve themselves of responsibility for numerous failures on the battlefield. These statements by the Kiev authorities and generals are designed to create the impression among the public that only the West and the refusal of the United States to provide further assistance to the armed forces of Ukraine are to blame for the failures of the Ukrainian army on the battlefield. Returning to the situation in the Avdiivka direction of the front, it is worth noting the words of numerous war correspondents. According to them, after the capture of Avdiivka, the Russian army is literally chasing the enemy at his heels, driving him outside strategic heights and settlements. Over the past 3 days, the Russian army has managed to take control of such settlements as Severnoye and Lastikino. Moreover, today, the information about the capture of the settlement of PETROVSKOYE by Russian troops was also confirmed. This was stated by the telegram channel Donetsk Stringer, as well as fighters of the offensive units of the Donetsk People's Republic. According to them, it was very difficult to capture this village due to the large flow of the Ukrainian army's reserves. However, after the capture of Avdiivka, the Russian army managed to level the front, as a result of which the armed forces of Ukraine were forced to surrender the village. By the way, just the other day, Ukrainian war correspondent and expert Konstantin Mashevets said that the Russians would not be able to take the village of Petrovskoye, since the defense of this village is carried out by fighters of the elite 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade Magura, who received military training in NATO countries. Moreover, he also stressed that US Abrams tanks reinforced this brigade, and that the footage of these tanks that appeared on the network was taken in the village of Petrovskoye, where they tried to stop the advance of Russian troops by shooting at them from a great distance. However, unfortunately for this Ukrainian war correspondent, the elite 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade Magura along with its US Abrams tanks still failed to stop the advance of Russian troops, and was forced to flee the village of Petrovskoye. Moreover, the bad news for the armed forces of Ukraine did not end there. As it turned out, after the capture of the village of PETROVSKOYE, Russian troops began to storm the village of Avdiivka. At the moment, fierce fighting is being recorded on the outskirts of this village. Will US Abrams tanks be able to hold at least this village? Well, we will receive an answer to this question in the coming days. Meanwhile, the expert community continues to discuss the capture of the US M1150 assault breacher by Russian troops. Let me remind you that a few days ago the Russians hit and captured this rare US combat vehicle in the Avdiivka direction of the front. According to military expert Boris Razin, the M1150 assault breacher is much more valuable than the Abrams tank, and the Russian soldiers who could hit it and capture will necessarily be presented with state awards.